It's a positive film. It has heroes and villains, and that it essentially is a fun movie to watch. It's been a long time since people have been able to go to the movies and see a sort of straightforward, wholesome, fun adventure.
Well, it's a fantasy. It's not science fiction so much as it is space fantasy. And it's about people. It's finally about people and not finally about science.
The story, when you actually put it into words, is only so much nonsense to hang a great visual experience onto. It's the stuff that fairy tales are made of.
Sort of boiling down religion into a very basic concept. The fact that there is some deity or some power or some force that sort of controls our destiny works for good and also works for evil.
Marvellous, healthy innocence. Great pace, wonderful to look at, full of guts, nothing unpleasant. I mean, people go bang bang and people fall over and are dead, but no horrors. A sort of wonderful freshness about it, kind of like a wonderful fresh air.
It's got whatever you want it to be. It's pure entertainment. It's like a roller coaster ride, and it can be interpreted as long as you enjoy it, which is the intention.
Hello and welcome back to Generation Skywalker. I'm Dan Burgess, and in this episode, Craig, Peter and myself got to interview Bob Brechin and Brian Hickey about their Kickstarter campaign for a new book Bob has written called My Palitoy Story. For anyone not familiar with Bob, he worked for Palitoy from the late 1960s through to the mid-80s and worked on a design team that came up with a Palitoy Death Star that we all know and love. As well as Star Wars, he worked on numerous other toy lines, including Action Force and Action Man, whilst at Palitoy. I've recorded this intro separate from the main interview because I wanted to highlight up front that the window to back this Kickstarter campaign is closing. I'm recording this on Monday the 12th of June and the Kickstarter campaign closes in only 6 days' time at 2100 on the 18th of June. So if after listening to this interview you want to back the campaign, head over to kickstarter.com, search for My Palitoy Story and pledge. There are numerous tiers you can select from. The most basic one gets you the book and your name in the back of it. And then, it goes up from there. There's options to get multiple copies. There's options to get Bob to sign the books. There's posters and postcards and things like that. But I'll let Bob and Brian describe all of that in the interview. You don't need to listen to me ramble on anymore. So let's head over to the interview and find out about My Palitoy Story. Enjoy. Welcome to Generation Skywalker, Brian and Bob. How are you?
Doing great.
Enjoying the weather?
Okay. Not at the moment. It's chucking it down. And we had one thunderclap right over the top of the house, and he threw me out the flipping chair.
You can't play some people, Bob. I bet you was moaning about the heat yesterday.
I know. It's still warm, but it's just chucking it down.
So Craig and Pete and myself are really excited to have you on to talk about your, this Kickstarter project. I'm going to start off with you, Bob. Can you give us a bit of insight into what the book's all about?
Well, it's really about the history of Palitoys. But Brian, Pete describes it better than me, actually. It's set in the social fabric of England, So it's not just about Palitoy. It follows through the decades. And it introduces sort of things that happen in society, and then what happens in the toy industry, and then what happens in Palitoy. So it follows that sort of pattern as it goes through the book.
And is that from, obviously, your own career in Palitoy? Is that then wove into that narrative?
Oh yeah, the story starts in the 19th century with the rise of plastics, but the real Castleoid story, which is the company that gave birth to Palitoy, that started in 1919, just after the First World War. So I wasn't alive there. You might think I was, but I wasn't alive then. So it goes through those decades, the 20s and the 30s and the 40s. I was born in 1944, just after D-Day. And then into the 50s when I started to become aware of things, so there's a little bit about me in the 50s. Then it goes into the 60s when I joined Palitoy. Tells a little bit about when I went to college and design college in Birmingham, how I joined Palitoy. And then from there on in, of course, it's Palitoy. Because I spent my time from 67 right through to 84. And then Palitoy closed in 85. And it talks about why and how that happened. And then there's a bit about keeping the heritage going, with Cold Heritage Society. So basically that's what it's about.
So we're all Star Wars fans, obviously, with including the name Generation Skywalker. How much does Star Wars play a part in that?
Oh, a big part. I interviewed Jeff Maisie, who was at Echo when we gave our talk. You were there? Jeff gave the talk with me, didn't he? Jeff Maisie. So there's some comments from him, and because we only designed things for that first year, the Death Star, and redesigned the playsets. We did a bit of tooling. Roger Morrison was the tooling manager, so it talks about that. But after that first year, we had nothing to do with Star Wars because it was all coming in from Kenner.
All right.
So it's over to the factory really for assembling the stuff. But as the years went on, it was being brought in complete.
Yeah.
So
but imagine those final years. It played quite a big role in the company overall in certain financing projects and stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, it pushed up the money that the company was bringing in. Of course, it sort of doubled the revenue of the company, basically.
Right.
But equally, it also, and Bob describes this brilliantly in the book, that Star Wars was so successful that it actually changed the whole fabric of the toy industry. And ironically then, that would come back and bite Palitoy really, really badly.
Yeah, bitters on the bum, as they say.
But the book is, it's a superb book. I was lucky enough to read the first draft, 90,000 words, and it focuses on those kind of heyday years for Palitoy in a big, big way. All those major brands that we would have known as kids are all very comprehensively covered in the book. But in addition to all of that, it actually describes the birth of the toy industry and how it evolved into what it is today. And that is, I don't know if Bob set out to tell that particular story, but it's so well researched and so well written that story cuts through as well. And it's a fascinating read for anyone who's interested in the history of toys. And if you have a particular focus, like in 80s, 70s and 80s toys, like people of our generation, then there's so much in this book for people that it really is. It's one that you want to have on your coffee table, and a part of your collection.
Yeah. It's obviously mostly about the British toy industry, but I do bring in a lot of American companies that influenced Palitoy. Obviously Kenner did, but companies like the American character doll company that had Tressie and things like that. So there's a bit of American history there, but the history is basically about Great Britain, UK.
Was there much links between, obviously there was the obvious link between Kenner and Palitoy, but did you have much communication directly with Kenner?
I didn't personally, because that was a marketing job, and, the managing director and the higher echelons of the company. But yeah, there was a lot of toing and froing between the two companies. I think I tell the story about, because we were becoming more European when Star Wars came out, or just after when Star Wars came out. And the General Mills Toy Group wanted a company to sort of organise Star Wars for Europe. And there's a story in there about that, and Jeff Maisie gets involved in that bit. And they didn't want to come to Colville, so they had a meeting in Paris. So it was a toss-up between Palitoy and Miro Meccano, who was going to be the top dogs for Star Wars. So there's that in it, I think Jeff talked about that in the talk we had at Echo.
Yeah, is that about a slide projector?
Yeah, the slide projector. So
someone throwing a whiskey glass at someone as well. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Bernie Loomis. He was a bit of a character, was Bernie Loomis, as you probably know.
Yeah. Very good. So how long have you been working on this then, Bob? When did you start writing it?
Oh, years ago. I must have been working on this over 10 years.
Wow.
Writing it down, and then I started doing talks to history groups around the area.
Right.
So I had I've got an illustrated slide PowerPoint thing, that I used to tell the history of Palitoy. We used it for the Star Wars at Echo, but we trimmed it down to Star Wars.
Yeah.
But the one I use for the history groups all around this area is all about the history of Palitoys, which is basically like a premise of what the book is, That's how I started. And I thought, I need to write a book about this. I started writing things for the book, gradually. And I put it down and I picked it up and put it down. COVID came along. You think COVID would have been a good time to get the book actually finished, but it didn't. I eventually decided I've got to get this done. And so I got it done, and I got the manuscript finished. I did look around for somebody to... Has anybody seen the Action Man dossier?
No.
No, you're not Action Man, are you? That was a book I was involved with an author quite a few years ago. And I went to that publisher to try and get it done. They weren't interested. And then I went to some other companies, but they were just doing these sort of small, soft-backed, black and white sort of books, and I thought it needs something more than that. Then I remembered Brian. So I gave him a call and said, Brian, do you fancy doing a book?
I said, Brian. That might be a good segue then, Craig, to talk about the book and the design of it.
Yeah, I mean, I found what you were saying at the start about putting all this stuff in a social context, and I think that's great. I mean, it elevates it, doesn't it, above a typical kind of collecting book that we all see. Brian, you're the designer of the book. You clearly have some form. The sample spreads that you've put out there as part of the Kickstarter look great. These books that are born out of hobbies always come from a great place, but they can vary wildly in their execution. I think it's fair to say, and I can point at some great Star Wars related collector books that have been let down by poor design. And conversely, I can point at some that the production values seem to have got a little bit carried away with themselves, and the books become collectibles in their own right, and people sell acrylic cases to protect those. How did you strike the balance?
I am a graphic designer by trade, so I've been, I'm going to say 3 decades my belt now at this rate. But I have a lot of experience in the publishing industry. So the design style that I've developed over the years is one that's, I suppose, minimal or very clean. A lot of kind of negative space or empty space on the page. And the way I see that, how that works is that, or the benefit for the reader is that it looks beautiful to look at, but at the same time, it's very easy to digest the information that's in there. Because the content is just as important, if not even more important than how it actually looks. So there's kind of 2 sides to the experience. You want to be able to get that information easily and take that in. And Bob has done a brilliant job on how he's written it. It's very easy to read. So the other side of that experience, that it has to look and feel good. So there's the graphic design component, but then there's also the quality of the paper. Mm-hmm. Quality of the finishing. So that needs to be just nice quality paper. It doesn't need to have a lot of printing gimmicks. Like, we don't have to do foil blocks or spot UVs or any of that. Although we could go down that road, but it does, if it's just really good paper, good weight, nicely bound, it's going to be a beautiful product. And that's the approach that I take with a lot of the books all of the books, in fact, that I design. So this will kind of, anyone who's bought any of my previous toy books will know kind of what to expect. And of course, if you haven't bought those books, it's going to be a beautiful product. And it is a coffee. We're pitching this as a coffee table book. So it's going to be slightly oversized. It is going to be fairly weighty. It'll be over 2.5 kilos when it's finished. It'll have some presence when you pick it up to read it.
And that's what people are investing in.
Absolutely. And of course, we're printing on a small scale. We're not printing tens of thousands of books, although, we would do that if the campaign was, really, really successful and we overfunded. But realistically, we're looking here at maybe 1,000 at the most, maybe less than 1,000 books. So this is going to be rare. There's not going to be, it's not like your Amazon or your high street bookstores, global distribution. That's not really what we're pitching here. This is a unique product that's going to be, beautiful, brilliantly written, and available in relatively small numbers.
And collectors like nothing better than unique, beautiful things that are in low numbers. So you should be pushing the open door. I mean, you mentioned sort of content there and things being unique. In the process of putting this together, have you found some never before published imagery, things from the archives that, are going to get people excited?
The answer, well, do you want me to answer, Bob, or do you want?
Yeah, you can answer, Brian.
Well, one of the things we've been working on over the last few months is trying to research a bank of imagery that we can license and use in the book. And thankfully, we're in a place where we have access to a huge bank of imagery from multiple sources that have either agreed to let us use the images or that we know that we can license them for a fixed fee. And in that process, we certainly have found some amazing photos, certainly plenty that I've never seen before. So one example would be that Bob reached out to the family of Miles Fletcher. And Miles Fletcher maybe might be a name unfamiliar to many collectors, but he was a very, very important person in the history of Palitoy. And Bob reached out to his family, and his family very generously shared some private photographs from their collection that haven't really been out there before, and we're able to use those in the book. So that was a brilliant find, thanks to Bob. And also Bob has been in contact with the Pallet estate. So Alfred Pallet is the founder of Castleloyd in 1919, and ultimately Palitoy came out of Castleloyd. And his family, again, have very generously gone into their personal collection of photos, and they found photos that they've shared with us for inclusion in the book. So there's material there that's never been seen before that is going to be in the book. But for, say, the Star Wars fans out there, like, they're probably asking, well, what's going to be in there for Star Wars fans? And again, fair play to Bob. He reached out to the Leicester Mercury, it's a big newspaper in Leicester, Leicestershire, and obviously in those heydays of Palitoy producing the Star Wars product, a lot of that was very heavily covered in the press by the Leicester Mercury. And Bob has actually found images in their archive that would be, we say, little known. We won't say never published before, but they certainly would be, that they wouldn't be the main images that you would see. It's like behind the scenes on the factory floor of the Star Wars goods being packed up. And then some publicity photos as well as part of that. So they're amazing photos, again, that we can get access to and feature in the book. And I can keep going here. Like there's lots and lots of material that we can, that will be in the book, and that we've, between Bob and myself, mainly Bob though, in fairness, has kind of worked very, very hard to source those images.
And have you done any original photography for the book?
I have. I'll be contributing some original photography for sure. My sort of vintage Star Wars shots, my Action Force shots, and some Action Man shots, there'll be a place for them in the book, but they're not going to dominate, say, how they would have, say, in previous books that I've done, which my photography features, very prominently in those. In this case here, they'll just be used maybe a bit more sparingly and just to supplement the written word. But of course, on the cover design that's up there, I'd say that's a collage of different photos on the front cover design. Many of those would be shots that I've taken, but others have come from other sources where we've got permission from other collectors to use some of their pieces. So particularly the girls' toys. So the Tiny Tears, the Tressie, they wouldn't be things that I would have to hand in my collection. But things like the AT-AT, the Robo-Skull, the Action Man, they're all shots that I've taken and used in the cover mock-up.
I love the cover. I love Action Man leading the charge. It's a it's a great.
It had to be, didn't it?
Although I have to ask, and I suspect I know the answer's to do with layout, but why the AT-AT over the Death Star? Because if you're talking Palitoy and you're talking unique to the UK, the Death Star's kind of up there, isn't it?
Well, the only reason why that is that I don't have a cardboard Death Star in my collection. But you're absolutely right, Craig. The cardboard Death Star is I suppose, the quintessential Palitoy contribution to the vintage Star Wars universe. But rest assured, there will be one photographed in the book, for sure.
Yeah. I think the AT-AT, the way Brian did it, they laid it out, the way the AT-AT's standing there, it sort of fits the montage.
Yeah, it does.
I think it might have been quite difficult to get the Death Star in something like a montage like that. Yeah. You understand what I mean?
I do.
Maybe on the back cover.
Yeah, we could put one on the back cover. Then Tressie will want to be on the back cover, and Pippa and Tiny Tears and Little Big Man.
And you were doing all the history and heritage talks. Did that bring out lots of ex-colleagues you hadn't seen for many years?
Not really. I've been keeping in touch with the ones that I've been keeping in touch with, but I suppose one or two did come out of the woodwork again. Some people, when I was talking, they'd come up to me afterwards. It's funny with these talks. You talk to them about the history and everything. They say, right, it's open to questions now from you, and you get about 2 questions, And then when you're trying to tidy up all your stuff and get it all packed away, they come up to you and ask you questions. I had about the last one I did, about 3 or 4 people come to me and said, "Oh, I used to work at Palitoy." I said, so yeah, it's funny.
Did you do many interviews then with people that you weren't in touch with, or was everyone that you kind of interviewed for the book you was already familiar with?
Yeah, it's all the ones I'm familiar with, really.
Okay.
Apart from Miles Fletcher's widow, when I went
right, okay.
And she gave me lots and lots of information. Just to put it straight, there were 3 men. There were 3 men who were chief executives at Palitoy during that period. Miles Fletcher, he was the one who was put in charge of the Palitoy brand to make it into something and make money, because they weren't doing very well at Castleroyd. And he started there about 62, and he was the one who introduced Tressie, Tiny Tears, and Action Man. And he was ably assisted by Bob Simpson. But when the Americans took over in 68, he didn't want to work for Americans. So Miles Fletcher, he went, and Bob Simpson, after a year or 18 months being sort of coached by the Americans, he took over as managing director. So he took it from about 69 right through to about 81. So that was the glory years, really. And then he knew what was happening as regards this globalization, which I talk about in the book, and he wanted out. So he got out, and a chap called Peter Waterman took over. And he was from Procter & Gamble, but he was a sort of man who, puts things in boxes and sell them. But he wasn't a toy man. But he did do well, because he doubled the sort of turnover of the company up to 85. So those are the 3 main characters. So that puts Miles Fletcher in context when Brian was talking about him.
Yeah. And if you could have interviewed anyone who's not around anymore, would he have been the person, or was there other people as well you'd have loved to have spoken to?
I mean, my boss, Bill Pugh, I would have loved to talk to him in detail. Back in the old Palitoy days, I was a bit in awe of him, because he was my boss. When I went to my first, conventions or whatever you call them, it's an action man one. It was an action man one at the end of the 90s, and it was down in the Bovington Tank Museum down your way.
I know Bob's market well.
And it was a chap called Les Story. He phoned me up and said, "Would you come and talk to us and everything?" I said, "Yes, but I want to bring Bill Pugh." And he had retired by then, and he was eventually he died of cancer, and he must have had it at the time. But I took him down on the drive back. He said, "I can't believe it. He says, "They're collecting those toys we used to design." He says, "I never kept anything."
That was going to be my next question, Bob. What do you make of all this Star Wars collecting? Obviously, you've done Echo. You mentioned Echo there. It's all got very organised in the last 10 years or so, but people have been collecting it for years and years now, decades.
Yeah, right.
What do you make of it all when you go to places like Echo?
Well, it's just overwhelming, isn't it? For when you think that these things have been going through your hands and it's just a job, you know?
Yeah.
And you think, crikey me, because we had a factory shop and you could buy a black bin liner of toys in the factory shop for £5. So you think, crikey me, I should have stuffed those black bin liners with Star Wars toys, put them in the loft and left them.
I think we've all had those dreams where we find an old warehouse with a couple of pallets in the back that someone's forgotten about.
That Echo base thing was really well organised. I must admit, I think people that organise that need praise for.
Yeah, you do a good job. Yeah. I think also over the years, I got sort of back into collecting in 2015, and there was the big Palitoys employees sale at Vectis.
Oh yeah.
Even from then, that just seemed to Palitoy was of interest then, but ever since then, it just seemed to have grown and grown, and there's just no stopping it really. I think just the interest and the love for that brand.
Yeah. Vectis. I've sold a few things through Vectis, and I'm quite friends with them, and they're helping us out with some of the photographs, aren't they, Brian?
Yes. Vectis have actually given us pretty much anything that we want to use from their image library. They've given us permission to use that, which means then we can, whatever toy that needs to be kind of, referenced or visualized, we have a visual reference for that. So that actually is brilliant, because we're, pushing the book as an illustrated history of a great British toy company. So, and that word illustrated is very important, because it is, well, there'll be nearly 90,000 words of text in there. There's going to be lots of images in there to support that text. So it's great that Vectis are on board, and as I say, a couple other different kind of organisations and personal collectors are contributing images too, which is great.
Talking about Star Wars, have any of you guys got the Destroy the Death Star game?
Yes, I do.
Because that's one thing I designed.
I love that game. I love the way the logo's like on the wonk. It's kind of, it's a sort of, it's an artistic take. But I love anything from that era that is not adhering to the strict brand guidelines that you have to today. There's a charm to all of that, stuff, particularly produced in the UK. I think we were very good at it, from the toys to the stationery to the, spin on the comics and things. It was all good stuff.
But one of the things that kind of struck me, kind of looking at as part of the research of this, is the pride in the workmanship that came out of Palitoy, the pride within the employees of the company. It's astonishing how much people seem to really love and be passionate about what they were doing. It doesn't seem like it was just a day job or just a paycheck, that there was real love in what they were doing. And you can see that in the unique products that were produced by Palitoy. You can see real love and passion in them. That's probably why they're still so kind of collectible today, and there's such demand for them.
Yeah. I mean, when Bob Simpson took over, after Miles Fletcher left in '68, he was given sort of free rein. So he was able to get licensed products from any company, basically. Competitors of Kenner and so forth. Of course, we built up great relationships with people like Tony and Amigo and people like that. Of course, when the Americans started getting more involved at the end of the 70s, when Bob decided to move, all that went, so Palitoy was just really a distribution centre for Europe. Which was a bit sad, really, because the British toy industry was sort of dying off, and it was the same in every other industry, wasn't it? The Americans have taken over.
Yeah. And do you keep up with things that happen today with like Hasbro and stuff like that? Have you got any interest in that, or is that nothing?
Not really. No. I've been following Valaverse because of Action Force. What Bobby Valler's been getting up to, but I think Action Force had to change. You can't just copy the same thing. It's got to. If you've got the name Action Force, you've got to do something different. So I admire him for that, but it's not the way I like it going. If you know what I mean. I preferred the way we were going.
Yeah, right.
On Action Force.
Have all the other communities embraced it, like the Star Wars community, like the Action Force collectors and Action Man, and is there a Tressie collectors base?
Oh yeah, there's a Tressie collectors. So Brian's been in touch with Tressie collectors, haven't you, Brian?
They've been brilliant. Actually, been brilliant. We found support like in all the different toy groups. So Tressie, again, in the various groups on Facebook, they've been very supportive with the posts we've been sharing. The Action Man groups, getting superb support in those particular groups there. Same with the Action Force groups. The Action Force, that's probably what I'd be most known is in the Action Force community. And then in the Star Wars community as well, and the guys in, say, the Echo Base group on Facebook have been really super, very supportive with the posts we've been putting out there. So, I mean, it's a testament to the diversity in Bob's work and his career that you have all these different major brands that are still revered and collected today, and all those communities are coming together to support the book. So, I mean, in terms of achieving our funding goal, we still have a ways to go. We're 6 days left. We've got about 40%, just under 40% of our funding still to achieve. It's going to be a bit of an uphill climb, but we're confident that we can do it. And certainly in over the last weekend, we've seen a lot more people coming on board back in the campaign. So it's we're just going to keep spreading the word and reaching out to the different communities, and we'll be hopeful that we'll hit that goal by next Sunday, the 18th of June. And once that happens, we're straight into actual production of the book. So the design, the assembly of the book, all of that. And we'll be posting out regular updates to our backers as we go through that production process, right up to the point where we're going to press and then getting the physical book shipped out to backers at that stage.
Yeah. So Brian's offered me a couple of pints of Guinness when I go over to Dublin to do all this work.
That your author fee. I hope you get more than that.
What are the different? There's some various tiers as well, right? So if you're backing it, you can go in at different levels, right? Do you want to?
That's right. So there's a standard kind of the first, kind of there's a level where you can pledge for no reward, and it's €10 or €5, just whatever you can stretch to. You get your name in the book in the credits as a backer. The next level up gets you a physical copy of the book. So that's €65 plus shipping to get a copy of the book shipped out to you anywhere in the world. The reward level 3, you get a physical copy of the book signed by Bob. That's €80 plus shipping. Then we've the next level up, reward level 4, is you get a copy of the book, but you also get an Kickstarter exclusive poster and postcard suite. So 6 postcards in a set, and that's €100 plus shipping. The next reward level there, reward level 5, is you can get 2 copies of the book for €120. So that's a small saving there on the 2 copies. Reward level 6, you get 2 signed copies of the book, the A3 poster and the set of postcard prints. That's €170 plus shipping. And then there's a reward level 7 for €300. You can get 4 signed copies of the book, signed by Bob, of course, and that'll ship out to anywhere in the world. So there's a lot of different levels in there that people can pledge at. Something for everybody's budget.
And when's the deadline? What are we running into now? When we're getting, say, it's in a few days' time. What is the drop dead date and time you've got to pledge by?
At 9 p.m. on Sunday, June 18th. That's British time.
Have you got a major push lined up this week?
It's been this week. Every day this week is going to be just push to spread the word and let people know that deadline is coming up hard and fast. Anyone who's watching the campaign, they're going to get an automated email from Kickstarter anyway, when there's 48 hours left to go. So certainly we'd expect to see a big spike in the pledges in those kind of last 48 hours. But we're not leaving anything to chance. We're just keep plugging away here, making sure people know that this is happening. Let them know that the value in the book and why it's worth supporting. And, it's worth saying it too. Bob has been a great contributor to this community, both in his professional career as a designer, but also in his kind of, post-professional career as a member of the community, someone who attends conventions and is preserving the legacy of Palitoy. So I would love to see the communities all come together to show their kind of support for Bob and, really bring this over the line comfortably before June 18th and it will be an excellent book for people to add to their collection.
Yeah. It's a story that deserves to be told. And it's been, it's all verbal and it's on the internet. It'd be great to have it all brought together in one place, and by Bob as well, of all people. You'd have thought by now someone would have come along and authored something like this, and yeah, it's great that Bob's got to do it.
No, thanks.
Well, do you know what? You're absolutely right. That's kind of a really important point there, because, an academic person who wasn't kind of, boots on the ground, say, could research and write this book, no bother. But because you're getting that first-hand account in those kind of heyday years from the 60s through to the 80s, from someone who was there, who lived and breathed it all, that makes it extra special.
Well, I've got my money in the hat. Hopefully, everyone else is going to do the same, and we can get this thing back and help you on your way.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for
spread the word.
Spread the word.
It's great. Pete, Craig, have you got any other questions you wanted to?
I have one question for Bob that has a personal connection, if you'll indulge me.
Yeah.
So I was born in Scunthorpe, and in researching this show, I came across an article in a local paper there with you calling for information about Castleloyd factory in the town that made products for Palitoy. So when I was growing up there was a Scunthorpe-based company that was famous for making the life-size dinosaurs that you used to get in like leisure parks around the world back in the 70s and 80s. And occasionally you would see a flatbed lorry go past with a triceratops kind of strapped to it with those big bands. No doubt that is completely unrelated. But how far did you get with your research into Scunthorpe?
I didn't get very far, actually. I got in touch with the local newspapers. Is that the article you're referring to?
Clearly, yeah.
I got in touch with them because I found out that Castleloyd, this is before the General Mills takeover, Castleloyd had a factory up there that were making tiny tears.
Right.
And then when I joined Palitoy in 67, and then I think it must have been 68, they closed that factory, and the manager of that factory came down to work in the Palitoy factory. And they brought all the tiny tears, moulds and machines and everything down into Colville. So I've got a photograph. I think, was there a photograph in that article of the...
There was a photograph, yeah. It's very old.
It used to be an old sweet factory.
That's right.
Yeah, and so we got a photograph of it, so we might be able to tuck that in somewhere in the book, can't we, Brian?
Sure, get it in there.
Any tenuous link to Scunthorpe and Star Wars it would make my day. Yeah. I do mention it that there was this factory out there. You know. Brilliant. It is mentioned in the book. So the trouble is, you know, a lot of things get mentions, but because it's a vast story. I mean, the big ones are Action Man, Star Wars, Action Force, you know, Tiny Tears. They're the big ones, but there's little bits of all the others, you know, like Pocketeers and Mego action figures and.
Yeah, well, you've got to save something for Volume 2, haven't you?
Yeah. We got an idea for Volume 2, haven't we, Brian?
You sure do.
We need you to make the Palitoy Death Star 2. You're making the Robo Skull 2. We need a Palitoy Death Star 2.
Yes. Well, I need somebody else to do that and make it different.
Oh, that's been great, guys. Hopefully, when the book's out, will you come back on and have another chat to us about it? So maybe we can once we've got it in front of us. That'd be really good.
Indeed.
Yeah, talk about it. We'd like to know what you think of it when it's out there.
Can't wait. Can't wait to get my hands on it.
I'm a bit worried now. The way Brian's built me up.
Do you know, I'm not even bigging you up enough, Bob. Like, it's a bit, I know it sounds like that. It really is, you know, a superb body of work from Bob, and it is 10 years in the making. You know, there's 10 years of work in that, guys, and it's a superb piece. So I can't wait for people to get this into their hands and to start, you know, talking about it on social media, talking about it in the different groups, coming back on the show, chatting with you guys about it. I'm convinced people are going to love this.
Outstanding. I think collectors, you know, on one level, it's all about ticking things off lists, displaying things, and that very sort of, you know, those things that drive the hobby. But I think this topic, what Bob has given to generations, or, you know, certainly our generation, you know, those toys that we connected with, it's about memories, it's about feelings, it's about transporting you back to a time. I used to disappear into that little cardboard playset. I absolutely did. I could probably walk you around it and describe every detail because I spent some time in that world, and we all appreciate that. And while we've got you on the show, just like, thank you, Bob.
Well, it was a joint effort at Palitoy.
Sure.
I was just designer, you know, in charge of a little team of designers, but it was a joint effort, and I talk about that in the book, you know. And I call the book My Palitoy Story because it's my story. Somebody from marketing would write a different story, you know, because they know the ins and outs of marketing. I sort of touch on marketing, but it's saying, you know, it comes from my viewpoint, so it's my story. So, I mean, Bob Simpson would have a different story, wouldn't he, if he was still alive? So that's how it's coming. As my story.
There's a great quote I saw. I think it's Action Man related, which could have been an alternative title for the book. Could have been The Hand of Bob.
Yes, it's come from this is the one. It's come from the hand of Bob.
That relates to the Action Man hand, doesn't it? The grip.
I sculpted the hand based on this hand.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, looking at it, of course, my fingers sort of bend funny, so I had to straighten them out. It's all about tooling. When you're designing something, you've got to make sure it comes out of the injection molding tool. It's not easy, you know.
Right then, guys. So on that note, yeah. So good luck with everything. We're going to be watching this with bated breath on Sunday night, as I'm sure hopefully you'll smash through it before then. But we're going to be watching it and looking forward to getting the book. And yeah, we're going to be cheering you on. We're going to be spreading this all over our socials. We'll get this podcast out as quickly as we can and push it as much as we can. So yeah, we really got our fingers crossed for you.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.